Hello and welcome back everyone to the next episode on SAP DataSphere training with me Anubhav. In our last episode, we talked about the concept of what is SAP DataSphere, its core architecture and capabilities, including the definitions of most important parts and where DataSphere is being used in a company. We discussed about the evolution of SAP BW system and how does SAP DataSphere would benefit you in terms of the BW environment in the cloud. We also discussed about the statement of direction, which overcomes the confusion related to BW and DataSphere. Would BW be replaced by DataSphere in a longer run? In also, we discussed about the implementation strategy and the different concepts related to SAP DataSphere capabilities and difference between DataSphere and Analytic Cloud. In our today's session, we are going to learn how to set up your free DataSphere instance in the cloud for free, including we will discuss about building our data builder layer. We will do the system walkthrough and understand the different roles inside the DataSphere tenant, and then we will use data builder to learn how to build our tables in the system. So let's get started. So how can we get started with a free instance of SAP DataSphere along with a connected SAP Analytics Cloud? As I've already shown in the previous episode, the difference between DataSphere and Analytic Cloud, they are two different products which are sold with a different subscription fees. Yet they are very nicely integrated with each other in order to fetch, load, and communicate with the data. So SAP provide free instance of DataSphere and Analytics Cloud for consultants like you and me. And we as a consultant can go and subscribe these free trial instances to practice most of the features on SAP DataSphere. The best part I love about is the connectivity what they offer, through which we will be able to connect and get the data from DataSphere system live in action into the analytics cloud for reporting. As I've already shown previously, the architecture analytic cloud work from the consumer point of view. It's the consumer of the data, and DataSphere works as a data source or single source of truth of about your data. So let us go ahead and learn how can we get started with a free trial instance on SAP DataSphere along with SAP Analytics Cloud together. So I have provided this link here. You can also find the link in the description of this video where SAP provide a link for getting started with the trial. I will copy this link in my browser and you can see get started with the guided experiences. When you come down, you will look that we have an option to get started with free guided experiences, which allows consultants to learn and upskill themselves for these new cloud technologies. When you come down a bit more, you can see there are two links for registering the DataSphere as well as Analytic Cloud. So first link, I will right click and open in a new tab for DataSphere. It will take me to this particular page where I can click Experience SAP DataSphere. Remember, you will not be getting a access for administration in these systems. However, you will get a developer access to develop, build, connect with different data sources, load data. A lot of these stuff you can do. There is another way to also start your own free tier DataSphere account where you will also get the admin access. But in the initial phases of our training, we would not need that. So I will get started with this experience trial. So I will go ahead and click to start DataSphere account. And first of all, you can also log in here. So you see there's a small login button. You can click on that and it will ask you to register yourself. So though it says business email, however, you can also give your personal email ID like Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook, any of your social media mail account as well. So once you do that, you will accept the terms and condition and submit, just like any other social media registration. This is pretty simple to fulfill, and then you can log in. So let me go ahead and log in now. So you will be presented a login screen where you can log in now. So you can see we have got an email ID. So I will just enter my email ID. I will enter the captcha and click on next. And now we can enter the password here. Click on login. It logs me in into my account, in my SAP account, and takes me back to the previous page where I can now click on SAP Experience SAP Datasphere. So you can click on that. Start your data and analytics guided experience. Very good. Please try. It will now start registration process for your free trial account or experience account so that you can experience SAP Datasphere for free. So it is just trying it out. Now you see it has got me a detail about my account. So it has got a user ID and it has also got a email. Yes. So that is my account user ID and password. I can go ahead and use it when it comes to my user ID and password. So of course, I would strongly recommend to all of you to save your user ID and password somewhere in your computer in some password depot securely so that you would remember this always. Yes, it is extremely important. So do not forget to store your password somewhere, because otherwise if you forget it, I have no way to reset it for you. Yes, or if you forget your user ID, I have no way to reset it for you. Yes, so this is extremely important that you all have to do so. Do not come back later on that I've forgotten my password. I have no clue. I have no idea. I have no way to reset your passwords, my friends. Now, in addition, you can see 0 minute ago, I have received an email about discovering SAP Datasphere with again my user ID and password on my Gmail account. And when you scroll down a bit on this email, you will find that I have an option to start my experience. So you can right click and say copy link address so that you can also bookmark and store the link of this account. So behind the scene, as I explained in the previous class, there is a data center, and in the data center, in an account gets created for you inside BTP. And on top of that BTP account on a Amazon data center, SAP will set up the DataSphere application, software as a service application for you. So I now go back to another browser window. I copy the link and paste it, and you see it will ask me to log in. So of course, now we will give here the user ID and password, which I have received. Yes. So I will be providing that. So let me pass my password and my user ID, and I click on login. So this way I can now log in to my SAP Datasphere account for free. This is free, no charges on your credit card or debit card. You don't even have to give your credit card or debit card details. Yes. So you can see welcome screen. Welcome to guided experience. Before you begin, make sure you zoom in the browser level to 80 to 90% zoom level so that you would be able to see all the settings. Okay, that's a just basic thing. And now it says manage settings. So I click on that. It will take me right away to manage setting option where I can just choose my privacy setting. If I want to ever clear my data which I'm storing in this DataSphere account, I can always go ahead and clear. Now, another thing is authorization. So you can see that DataSphere is a source of data for storing data for your company or for your personal use. Out of this data, maybe some data is very personal. So it is very important that as a developer or as a consultant, we allow SAP. So we accept this, content authorization that on behalf of us, whatever data we store, the system, the DataSphere system would have access to this data. Let's say you have a very critical plant data or some government data which you are working on a government project and storing that data on a data sphere. So you would want to authorize, by authorizing us, you are giving a consent that in the future, if you have a data replication task or a data flow task, yes, or any kind of, you know data jobs, SAP can execute these jobs to tweak your data, to bring in new data on your behalf. The DataSphere system can do this on your behalf. Yes, that's what it asks you for consent. If you do not give this consent, you have a lot of issues while developing the data models in the system. So this is a very first setting you must authorize. Otherwise, you will have a lot of issues while working with the system. So once I authorize, I am now ready to unleash the power of my business data. Yes. So this is how I can set up my SAP DataSphere account. Yes. Now let's also simultaneously set up the Analytic Cloud Experience account. The beauty is you can switch over back to the same page where we started, and we have Analytics Cloud also. We can open that, and the process is very much same. We click on Experience Analytics Cloud. You can see already the login is there for me. I click on that and I say start your Analytic Cloud guided experience system. I can click on try now, and you would see that I will be able to connect to my SAP Analytics Cloud guided experience. So once again, the same process, and behind the scene now what it is doing, it is configuring a BTP. On that BTP account, it is creating everything for me out of the box. And once again, I have got my user ID password here. Yes, to get started with SAP Analytics Cloud account. I'm my passwords are visible to you, but I would assume and hope that you guys will not misuse my user ID password, but rather you will create your own. And then we just go ahead and click on start my guided experience. I click on this button, and that starts the guided experience for Analytics Cloud. Yes. And of course, I will go ahead and enter my user ID and password there. So I will be entering my user ID and password for the Analytics Cloud account and click on login. So now I have got my user for SAP Analytics Cloud, and I have also got my user. It's a fresh, very fresh system. I say accept. Yeah. Yes. So this is a very fresh system for both SAP Analytics Cloud guided experience and SAP DataSphere SAP DataSphere, yeah, guided experience. So these are the steps to create a free system. Yes, and you see, I am using actually my Gmail account to do that. I do not have, or I did not use in this case any company account, and I did not provide any credit card details to get started with these instances for free. So it's your time that you can go ahead and create an account for yourself and get started with our training courses, both on Analytics Cloud and DataSphere for free. For free. Yes, these instances are free. You can practice them, and they're all cloud. They run on your browser. You do not need to install anything in your local machine or local computer, as I've already explained you the difference between cloud versus on-premise applications. So in this training, our main goal will be to work with the DataSphere, not with Analytic Cloud. As I already mentioned in the previous episodes, if somebody interested to learn end-to-end Analytic Cloud, join my Analytic Cloud training. However, I will show you the integration between both of them as well as part of our current course. But in general, if you are interested to learn Analytic Cloud end to end with all the capabilities like BI, planning, analytic designer, predictive, live data connections with different data sources, acquired data connections, digital boardroom. All that is covered as part of my Analytic Cloud 40-hour dedicated training, available only exclusively on anubhavtrainings.com. Whereas I have DataSphere now, and this is what our main bread and butter we will be beginning and we will be starting. So let's start with the menu options on the left first of all. What are the different menu options do we have? And what are the capabilities does these menu options gives to me? Yes, so we will start quickly with the system walkthrough first of all. So let me come back to the system walkthrough, and I will put here what are the different options. So first option is called Repository Explorer and Data Marketplace. So Repository Explorer, what is the Repository Explorer? What is it used? It is used to browse and create objects in repository. So if you come to Repository Explorer, here you can basically browse the repository of objects which you have created in the DataSphere. Like you can see here different objects. It could be table, it could be views. You can browse all of them, and you can centrally create everything from here. You can see all the different types of objects right away. You can, so basically this is a central place where you can browse all the objects, their statuses, whether they are active or inactive, basically deployed or not. All of this you will be able to see it along with the developer who have done that. You can make your objects also favorite here, you see, and next time when you come, you can actually find them in the favorite list. So let's say if I make this object favorite, if I simply go to favorite, I can find that. Suppose you have 10,000 objects in the system, so out of these 10,000 you tend to work only with 10 or 5 or 20 objects. You can search them, find them, and then make them as your favorite, so it will be easy for you to navigate to them. So here you can find, like in a BW system, you can see your own objects, yeah, your recently created objects, shared objects. Same way you can find all the list of objects. You can also apply different filters to slice and dice the different objects which are part of the system. So this is the Repository Explorer. The next option which comes is called Catalog. The catalog, as I mentioned previously in the previous episodes, that you do not want to develop something which is already done in the past. Yes, so you do not want to reinvent the wheel. So catalog is a place where you can search the business documentation of our objects. So when you build objects, you can publish them on a catalog. So later point of time in the future, for example, if in your company there is already an object which is built by somebody for a similar purpose, you can go ahead and find them. So it is a place where you can search business documentation of your objects, and if you feel the same is useful for you, you can make a copy or reuse the same. Yes, the business content, exactly. So this is all the content which you develop in the system. The content I mean here is like a view, a table. That's what I mean as a content. So all the technical content which you build in the system, you can provide a nice documentation, and that is what will be published in the catalog section. The next one is called Data Marketplace. So data marketplace, as the name suggests, it's like a marketplace, like for example Amazon, where you can go and browse products. So since we are talking about DataSphere, a data warehouse, we also do have a data marketplace where you can go and search the external data and data sources. So data marketplace, what we do is, data marketplace is nothing but, it is, you can purchase data products from providers and download them directly into RSpace. So suppose there is a important data published by, let's say, NATO, or published by World Health Organization, and this data is a paid data, and you would want to analyze something on top of this data by joining this data with your data. Yes. Or let's say inflation date data or stock market price data, and that is available at a paid cost. Some data is free, some is paid. So you can go ahead and explore the data marketplace where SAP and their partners, apart from that, open ecosystem, the available data is there, which you can pay and download and use it for your experiences. So next one is called Business Builder. The right order for me to explain is Data Builder and Business Builder. Very important section. 80% of the time as a consultant, you will be working with these two areas. So, okay, let me also show you quickly Data Marketplace, where you can find all the available products. You see, these are the data sets available. Some are paid, some are not. You see different companies, the sources. These are the different logos, data sets, and companies. We will come back to Data Marketplace later on. Then we have Data Builder. You see this Data Builder and Business Builder. In my opinion, Data Builder has to come first before the Business Builder. However, let's talk about them. This is the main area which you will be working most of the time. Yes, this is where you provide sources, core data sources, build your data source objects, DSOs in traditional BW. This is what you call it as, where you will build your tables, your main source for data, and then you will consume it from the business point of view, build the models on top of it in the Business Builder. So what is Data Builder? Data Builder is a section where you will actually go create and import tables, views, create data flows, yes, and entity relationship diagram to mark all your data sources and their relationship between them. So this is your core data layer, our data layer. So this is where the entire data is built, or it is being originated from. So that is your data origination, or the core layer of data. Like Earth have a core, on top of it we have different layers and tectonic plates of Earth. Similarly, all the energy, all the magnetic field around the Earth is coming from the core of the Earth. So this is your core of the Earth, which is Data Builder. Business Builder. Here we can create business entities, we can create fact models, we can, and consumption models to present data to consumption tools. So our ultimate goal is to prepare the data for the consumption. Yes, for the consumption, final consumption. That is our ultimate goal. Yes. So consumption tools like Microsoft Power BI or Tableau or Excel or Analytic Cloud. So this is where you will build your final data models, which are non-normalized. See guys, traditionally data is spread across multiple tables. These tables are defined in Data Builder, but then you will build views for data security as well as data masking and different calculated measures, building joins and everything. Finally, you build Business Builder, your business data models, which are consumable, which are exposed out of system to other systems. And through this, you have a clear separation of what is the core and what is the consumption layer. Yeah, you know, from where all the consumption is happening, that will be a Business Builder. We will dedicate lot of time on these two topics. Significant time will go of our training on these topics. The next section is come data access control. So somebody also asked me in the previous episode about the security of the data. So data access control is where we can manage criteria based privileges. So criteria based privileges to control the flow of data or to filter the data accessible in views and business data objects. So suppose you build a view to display the sales data. Now you have different sales organization. One is in US, one is in Canada, and one is in Singapore. Now, when you access the data, you would want to make sure the people will only be able to access the relevant data in the respective countries. So people sitting in US, they should only be able to see the data for US sales organization and respectively. So you can create data access controls. Basically, it's a traditional concept in ERP which is called as authorization. Here it's in a data access control. The next is called data integration and connections, data integration monitor. So when you integrate your data with different layers, when you build the data flows, ETL flows, you would want to monitor how these overall objects are doing. Sometimes you also bring in a table from a different data source. Let's say BW system, you get a remote table. Yes. So you would want to track the overall performance, the overall consumption of these external data objects, including the data flows which you configure, the ETL flows you configure, the task chains you configure. You want to check the status of the jobs which are executed for moving the data to and from the data sphere. You want to track them. That is where you can see data integration monitor. As the name clearly says, we can check memory consumption of replicated tables, data integration flow, and task chain monitor. When ETL runs, what was the time taken and status of our jobs? That is the data integration monitor. We will also see all these sections as part of our training. Next is my personal favorite, connections. This is where exactly we establish connections to exchange data between different SAP and non-SAP, cloud and on-premise systems. Yes. We establish the exchange between SAP, non-SAP, cloud versus on-premise systems. We establish these connections with DataSphere. So this is where you can see the list of connections which are offered by SAP. There are some connections which are predefined in experience. You see something like a HANA Cloud and S4 Cloud. They are giving automatically for learning purpose. So traditionally in a real account, this will be connected to your real company HANA Cloud and S4 Cloud system. However, in this training, I will demonstrate you how to do these connections. Yeah, how, but they for experienced trial account, they give you two connections free. So basically there are S4 system and HANA Cloud systems, and SAP give these two connections for learning and training purpose, which is very good. Yes, but I will show you in coming episodes how to do these connections yourself in case you are interested to do that. So you will learn also connectivity with different systems. So there you can click on create and you will get the list of type of connections to choose from. So you see here we can choose data flow connections, model import connections directly from SAP to SAP system, remote table from these different sources. So somebody was saying, I have a table in BW. Shall I copy the complete data or can I use that table directly without copying my data to DataSphere? So remote table is exactly the same, where you can, without copying the data, bring in a table from any of these systems, and these tables you can use it in your views. Then we have replication flows we can run with these systems to replicate all the data for a particular view from a view or a table. And then we have categories for cloud and on-premise, as I mentioned, SAP and non-SAP, yes, and of course partner tool. So you have different choices to choose from. Large variety of data connections are available for us to choose from different source systems. So we will be learning how to set up these connections. Some of them I will be teaching you as part of our training, how to set up and use these connections in the system. So that is about the connection part. The next section is called as space management. This is a very important section as far as your area of work is concerned. So the place where you will be working in and out. This is basically your space management, where your area of expertise or your area of work lies. So you will be whatever activity you do, so this is like your memory, where you will do all the work which you intended to do. Like in a traditional SAP BW system, you have a local object, right? So it is very similar to like that, or a package in your company. In that package is where you will do all the activity. So think about it like a package. I'll explain what exactly the space management is in detail. Yes, what is a space, but in general you can think about it like a package. So let's talk about now what is the space management section. I mean, just maybe it's better I go to the another tab. So space management. So what am I doing in the space management? I will just go ahead and I will talk about the spaces. What is space? So spaces are fundamental concepts of SAP DataSphere, and the spaces concept later on in this section. So let us talk about these are the fundamental concept of DataSphere, and here we manage the overall memory we are allowed to connect and manage our work area. So it's a private work zone for you, where a consultant will connect and do all the activities inside the space. So think like your private package in SAP BW. So you can compare like that. So however, it is much broader than that, but you can just think and compare like that. So usually you will not have the administration permission for managing this space. So you can see most of the things are grayed out. Yes. So you will not be allowed to change, allow memory priority. Yes. Some of these configuration as a trial user. But if you go with the productive account, which I will also show you later on, how can we go ahead and do the space management directly in the system. Yes. That's what we will also learn as part of our training. So now let's move on to the next very important thing. So here we have the concept of content network. So you saw that we develop some content by ourselves. We build views, replication flows, tables, yes, analytic models, data sets. So we create different objects. But what about if I'm working on a pharmaceutical company? I'm working on aeronautics. I'm working on oil and gas. So SAP is also allowing and giving you some content which is industry best practice content. So think about, you buy a car and you get a fuel for that car for 1 year, or for lifetime you get the fuel for that car. So that is basically nothing but your content. So whatever content you want to build, you can build it. But apart from that, you also have the content which you can download from SAP best practice. So the content network is basically one hand provided you access of sample business content from SAP and SAP's partners network. So lot of top companies are SAP partners like Accenture, Capgemini, TCS, Deloitte. What they do is they do have experiences and they have work experiences working with SAP DataSphere and implementation. Yes, that is what they have. And they build a lot of views, lot of content for industry specific content. Some of them are best practices. Some of them are best practices they will do. So what SAP does is, if the partner or SAP think that this could be a good content or good best practice for someone to reuse, they will publish it in the content network. So some content is free, some is paid. So you can pay or you can download this content, which brings you a set of objects in your system which you can tweak because it's a copy. You can tweak, you can modify, and then publish that. So it will speed up your initial development, and it will bring down your total cost of implementation. And of course you are using the best practices. So you can get the partner content from partner network or from other content network where you want to import export your content and lifecycle process. So it's a one hand provided by for us to access the sample business content from the different network. The next section comes is the security, which is not visible here because this is not a productive account. That's why I don't have permission to access the security tab. But of course, later on in this training, when I show you security and administration, I will also show you that tab, security and administration tab. So we do have usually security tab where we configure system administration like SSO configuration, HANA cloud configuration. We also got whitelisting, users, roles, permissions, all that we configure under the security area. Then we have transport. So how do you transport or how do you move your content from one datasphere tenant to another datasphere tenant? We have the option for transport. So transport section allows us to export and import content from one datasphere tenant to another. Like for example, you have a dev system, quality system, and production system. So you can export, import. There is no transport manager as such, like you have in a BW. You have SE01 to transport your content, but here you don't have that. Yes. So it is through the export import option. Finally, we have the next area, which is data sharing cockpit, where you can basically share and publish your data itself. Yes, including managing your licenses. So suppose you want to become a data provider in data marketplace. So data marketplace is where you see a lot of people come and sell their data. Similarly, you have built some data. You have some amazing data set, which you feel you can sell it on the market. So you can also go to data sharing cockpit, register yourself as a data provider and manage the licenses and decide the cost to sell your data with other people on the data marketplace. So this is where you can use data sharing cockpit to share your data on data marketplace and manage license for your data. So I will be teaching all of this as part of our training to you. You all will be able to understand and use all of these things in the system. Yes. So can we build a planning model and sell it? No. Only you can sell data, not the models. Yeah. If you want to reuse a model, you have to go to content. So content and data two are different things. Content is the skeleton of the data, like a view. So if I talk about a view has a content, let's say COVID data. So COVID data have a structure like uh, let's say number of cases, number of deaths, yes, hospitalized, recovered, vaccinated people, yes, date of country of the cases. So that is the skeleton. This is your content. Now this content have the data. So this is now inside this you have the data. So do not mix up these two things. This is your data and this is your content. The skeleton of COVID table is different. So the data, when we talk about data sharing cockpit and um, data sharing cockpit, and we have an option called uh, the data marketplace. So that is about the data part. But when you say content, the skeleton of this data, yes, what will be my fields, what are my attributes, what are my measures, what are my calculated measures, that is what we call it as content. So these are two different things, data and content. So that's why we have two different areas, one for content network for managing the content, and one for data sharing cockpit and data marketplace to manage the data itself. Okay, so that is about the difference. Does DataSphere have out of the box data flows, standard BW extractor like LO extractor and HDMM? Yes, that's what the content network is. So when you go to content network samples, you can actually find here some standard tables, standard content. You see standard content, sample FI and HR content, they have one. And here is where you can see different content for different functional areas. Yes, so you can just go and explore these content. You see they have tables, they have entity relationship models, they have views, they have data flows. You see these are replication flows. They are already available as part of content network. So if you feel this is useful for your company, which you do not want to reinvent the wheel, you want to reuse, you can just download this content. Yes, you can download this content and reuse that. So this is the standard content, like what you get in standard BW system pre-delivered by SAP. Similarly, you can browse the content available on this content areas, content network. And if you feel that any of this content is useful for you, you can get that downloaded. You see, a lot of them are there. So if you can go to this retail POS analytic package, then you can find the content again. You see views, tables, and space. Yeah, that is something which SAP provide. So that is where you can go and watch the content out. Now let's talk about the next important part, which is space. So this is the most important part before you get started with anything on DataSphere. So now what is a space? A space is our secured virtual network environments, which is used for what? Which is used to provide an isolation of metadata objects and space resources. So traditionally speaking, in BW system, you have different packages, right? One package for finance, one for HR, one for sales, one for CRM, right? Similarly, how do you isolate functionally your content between each other? Yes, that is what we can do with the help of spaces. So we have finance, sales, HR, and different line of businesses. We can create spaces, different spaces. Your administrator will create these spaces. You will not be allowed to create spaces. Traditionally there is administrators like a basis people, they will create them. And then let's say in the finance you get the data from S4HANA for simplified finance, from Excel sheet, planning Excel sheets, or SAP success factor. In sales you get data again from S4HANA simplified procurement, Salesforce, or market data. Then in HR, you get from SuccessFactor, Glassdoor, or Qualtrics. Yeah. So this way you can isolate your data across different different line of businesses. It defines storage quota, control resource uses, and workload class settings. So who can develop in this? So let's say I have 20 developers in my company for DataSphere. Are all these 20 developers have access to critical finance data? Maybe not, right? Maybe not. So I cannot have 20 different SAP DataSphere systems. I have to have one system. All my data, all my users will be on one system. But still, I would need an isolation for consultants, to finance consultant to only see finance data, sales consultant to only work and see sales data and manage sales data. Yes. And there also, I need to decide that sales team is only allowed to store 20 GB. Finance team is allowed to store only 100 GB. So how do you manage that as an administrator? Think from an administrator point of view. How do you manage who can do what in the system, who is allowed to see which data, and who is allowed how much of data to store in a particular functional area? So that's where we have the concept of space management, which will help you to do so. Yes. Then the next is maintain space specific source system connections and common time definition. So this is also very, very important. When you create a connection, it is created under your space. Let's say there is a very critical, a top secret system which is managed directly by the management of the company, which has very secret and top secret data, and this is a connection you created in your data sphere. Now if that connection gets in the wrong hand, they can steal, somebody can tweak or steal or accidentally modify or do something with that data. So you do not want your connections to be public, you do not want your connections to be used by every developer in the system, every consultant in the system. So the connections, the data, and also the special data, let's say currency conversion rates. So in sales you are using different currency conversion rate, but in finance you're using different currency conversion rate. Yes. So all this is managed at a space level. So at a space level you can control that what will be my currency rates, what will be my you know connections which are only allowed finance people to be made. So it provides a very good isolation, storage limit, storage access, and also the connection and time dimension data. Time dimension data, I have a separate slide, I'll discuss that later. Then we can manage user access and space members. Very good, this is also very important. Who can develop in a space, like a package level access which you want to give, you can give that. Then enable sharing of data and currency conversion setting with other spaces. So let's say there is a data which you store in the finance team, finance space. Now this data you need to share with the sales, because sales team also want currency conversion. So you maintain currency conversion rate centrally in the finance, and now this currency conversion rate will be used by other department. So it is also possible to do sharing of data, basically give a controlled access of sharing your data from one space to another. That also you can do that. That also you can do that. So this is how exactly we can work with the currency conversion. Now let's understand the space management. So I will take you to the space management. Of course, in the trial account, the one which we're using, which is for free, we will not be allowed to change much of settings, but at least we can see space management. So I go there. So you can see first we start with the overview. Here it tells you the space ID. This is my space ID 501. This is my space name. This is just a name, functional name of the space. So let's say Anubhav's space. So that is just to recognize my space name. Yeah. So this is the name of my space. This is the ID. The ID would never ever change. Yeah. So you can give a description like finance, HR, materials management, different spaces you can create, your administrator can create. How do they create? They create from home, and you see create spaces. So you see, for me it is grayed out. Why? Because I am not the administrator of the system, I don't have powers to create that. Later on in our training, when I have another system where I will have administration access, because I will also teach you user management, administration management. That time I will have another system, a productive system. I'll show you space management also. Yeah, during that unit. Not today, not today. So then go to space management. So then we have the space status, whether it is active or inactive. Yes, what was the creation date, created by, deployment status, and then you see enable space quota. This checkbox, when you check, you can decide how much memory is allocated to this space. So any data, let's say table or application flow, which tries to push data more than that allowed gigabyte limit, it will give an error, it will not allow. So this way you can control your data uses, because in cloud the storage space is costly. Yes, so more you store data in the cloud, more it is going to be subscription. It's a subscription, pay per use, pay per user, remember last class. So you can decide how much you want to allocate. This is again done by the done by the system administrator. So what's the default allocation? I think default allocation is 512 MB. Yes, that is a default one, but again you can control that here. Then we have priority. So here we can decide whether this space, if let's say there are three replication flows, one from finance, one from HR, and one from sales, which of the replication flow will be given a priority by our system, so all the data flows, data integration flows, they run at a system level. So we can decide that okay, this particular space will have high priority, or this particular space. So let's say if there are three replication flows scheduled in midnight from sales, finance, and HR. So if you given for finance space more priority, then of course that replication flow will be executed first by the system, because that is with the higher priority. Then we have workload configuration, where you can default your configuration for resource limit while preventing any single space from overriding the system. So this is the space configuration. Then we have of course the member, who are the consultants who can see this space, view this space, and develop inside this space. So you can add more consultants. So you can see here we have so many users. I can add other users to my space, and I can click add button to basically add, allow them, permit them to view my space and view the content of my space. So I am myself the user, point one. This is a user which was the administrator user which got automatically created, and I don't know about this user how it got added. Maybe that is the from SAP experience team side. This is a consultant who have access to my space to view how much am I experiencing the DataSphere tenant. I think that's the user, because SAP is also tracking that when you register your trial account, how much are you using or not using. Yes, so that is what this space is. Then we have data consumption. Here we can choose whether you want to by default expose everything which you develop in the system to external systems for the consumption point of view. So that you can choose. We have database user. We can create database user. So as I told you in the next class, behind this last class, behind the scenes, what is happening is we have DataSphere. In the architecture unit I have taught you. So what we have is actually a SAP DataSphere instance, SAP DataSphere application, SAP DataSphere, and there is something called SAP BTP, which is our platform. And in the BTP platform, we have a database called HANA Cloud. So all the data which you are storing is getting stored from DataSphere to this HANA Cloud. Yes, behind the scene. So basically what you can do, you can actually, as a developer, later on, if you have admin privileges, you connect to this system, but you can also, as a developer, connect and see your HANA Cloud instance directly. Yes. Apart from that, all your data and tables are stored here, right? So apart from that, let's say there is a Android application you want to build, and for this Android application you want to give access of this data, this particular data, direct data, or you want to build another application on top of this HANA Cloud. So there's something called CAPM, Cloud Application Programming Model, in BTP. So we can build a CAPM application. So in this case I would like to expose a API out and give access from this mobile app to this API. But this should only be allowed to access data for only, let's say, one table, this particular table, not other table. So I can control that permission. So I can manage database users. I can create a DB user myself, let's say Anubhav, and I will give this user to the mobile app developer to access this API from this user only. So this user will be only granted permission to access the API, to access the API. So that is how you can give controlled access directly to your database. So you can create new database users. Plus, where you keep your data in HANA. In HANA Cloud, there is a concept called HDI, HANA Deployment Infrastructure. This is nothing but a schema. If you work with HANA, it's a schema which keeps all the database objects, all the runtime database objects. These are like tables, views, sequences, procedures, UDFs. Yes, we have data connections. So everything which you store in a database, in a HANA cloud database, that is stored inside HDI. HDI is HANA Deployment Infrastructure, or also known as HDI containers. So what is a container? Container contain database objects. Database objects like tables, views, sequences, flows, yes, triggers, procedures, functions, UDFs, yes, sequences, yes. All this is part of a database. So traditionally, any database which you see, which stores different database objects, they're all part of HDI actually. So it is possible from your Datasphere account to create a database user and also to create a container. It's possible to create a container as well. So we can create a HDI container. So here we can create a HDI container. If time permits, I will also show you how to do that with my productive account. Then we have connections. So as I told you, all the connections are managed at a space level. So you can go to connections and manage. So whenever you create a connection, it will get created under a particular space. Now, time dimension, very, very important guys, time dimension. So what is first of all dimension and what is time? I will explain both of it later. And then I will come back to space management. I'll show you how to generate time dimension tables and data. SAP Datasphere allows you to populate, pre-fill, pre-fill lot of tables which you can use in your in your development. When you build your content, you would need data for weeks, days, leap year, yes, half year, all of that. You want to join with the time data. So here you can generate time data. Finally, we have auditing. You can enable auditing to start storing the logs. Who is accessing the data? Who is storing the data? What are replication flows modifying which data? All this gets stored in the log. So this is the traditional logging which gets enabled. And then once you save the settings, you have to deploy these settings. They will change the configuration behind the scenes, and then you can start monitoring directly. Yes, you can start monitoring, and you can monitor your changes for the space like that. So this is about the space management. So at the moment, I don't have much permission as I am not the administrator of this section. So I am not allowed to change anything, but whatever is here, I have already explained you. And then you can go to monitor to also see the overall system health. So when you click monitor, it will show you how much is this health. Now, one interesting thing, in memory and disk, what is this meaning? So in the last class, I taught you about SAP HANA. So HANA is a in-memory database. So it is actually telling you that out of all the data your DataSphere has, how much percent of data is stored in the RAM, and how much percent of or usage of data has been sent to the hard disk. So that is the in-memory computing engine or the HANA part. How much of the part of data is HANA keeping in the memory and how much is in the hard disk. So that is what the system is telling you here. And then you can see here for table storage consumption, each table, how much data it is taking. So you can see this particular table is taking the highest data. Yes. So you can see table consumption, and then again the same information available in the table, how much in memory, how much disk uses. So that you can also do the sorting here to see if there is a particular table which is taking too much of memory in the system, you will get to know that. So that is about the monitoring part on the space management. So again, mainly used by administrator to control the uses, the storage, the quotas, and also the different time and dimensions, the users who can develop and view the content inside the space, along with that generating the time dimension data and basic audit logging settings in the space management. So this is where you get started as a consultant. Always you make sure. Sometime I see that I was trying to upload 20 GB data, but it was failing and I was having no clue. And then I realized my space quota was just 10 GB. How can I upload 20 GB? So that is how you can manage the space quotas in the system through the help of space management. There's a lot more to come about space management once I take you to a real admin account in the future. So you will be able to see some activities which I will do here in the space management. Yes. So do the company pay cost per space if they need more space? Yes, of course, Venkat. So more space, more block size. So space is not like I need 1 GB more, 1 GB more. No, there's something called block size. So one block size is, let's say, 80 GB. So if you say I want more space, SAP will say how many block you want. You say one block. One block is 80 GB. You cannot decide I want 5 GB, 3 GB, 2 GB. Yes, as and when I use, I say I want 2 GB more. I want every day. You can't go to SAP like that. It's a block size cost. So one block size, let's say assume 80 GB. What is the cost of one block size? Even you are exceeding 1 MB data extra. Yeah, 1 MB data extra. There you need to buy a new block. Complete block you need to buy. Yeah. So it's always allocated by block. Where do we set the hot and cold space, which you have shown earlier? We do not have control over that. So that is something which is a very granular level setting for HANA Cloud Database. So we cannot control that from the DataSphere. That is something we can't control. The hot and cold store, yes, that is not possible. So catalog is the documentation and content network is the business content standard. So catalog, yes, catalog is a documentation within your system, within your system. So within your system, if you build 100 objects, what are the objects, what are the purpose? That is catalog. But the the business content which you see, actually the content network which is provided by SAP. So this is where you can see SAP delivered standard content, SAP delivered standard tables, SAP delivered SAP delivered or partner delivered standard content, which you know, we are not the only one using Datasphere. It's being used by many companies. Let's say I am a pharma company. I built something for my company. Now I want to monetize that. Yes, I want to monetize. I want, maybe other pharma company want to reuse my content, and I'll charge them, let's say, $20 for that. So I can publish that on a content network. The other pharma companies, they can download my content, my tables, my replication flows. They can reuse that. It will speed up their implementation. Yes, because, and it's also proven, and I'll charge them for that content. So that's what exactly the content network is. Okay. Cool. So at this time, let's take a break before we go more things into the system. I'll take a break here and we will join back after a short break. Yes, everyone, you can take a break. Okay, everyone, please come back after the break. So before the break, we discussed about the concept of space management. We talked about the introduction to how to set up your SAP Analytics Cloud and SAP DataSphere account. We also discussed why we need spaces and different system walkthrough options which are available on the burger icon, which when you open and expand that. So there's a question here. I missed the first 30 minutes. I'm not sure if you've already covered my question. If not, could you please answer my question? I want to develop proof of concept on DataSphere on my company requirement. Then how do I choose to buy the product? So this is already covered. You can start with the SAP DataSphere uh, user experience account, which I showed you today in the class. So yes, all the 2-3 members which you guys have in your company, they all can start it with a free account. So please check the class video recording. The first 30 minutes which you missed, we already covered that topic, so that you can start building the POC for your company in your DataSphere account. All right, so let's come back now and let's begin with the next topic about some helpful links. So over a period of time, by working with the DataSphere, I found out some of the most interesting and important links which I will share with you now, where you can find the documentation. This also answer one of the important question asked by you. Anubhav, I want a book to read on DataSphere. Where do you recommend a book? How can I read book about DataSphere? So there are a lot of material, lot of books which are available. So you can see the first one is called SAP DataSphere Product Roadmap. So suppose your manager asks you that, will this feature be available in DataSphere and by when? You can always go back and check the roadmap, the product roadmap, which actually tells you about when which feature will be released by SAP. Yeah. So that is what the first tab is all about. The first link is all about. It's called SAP Product Roadmap for DataSphere. So in which quarter, when which feature will be made available by SAP, all of that information is readily available in this product roadmap. So let me pass my S user ID and log in, and you can see here the capability view, quarter 3, quarter 4, quarter. So they publish a quarterly plan about all the products and features. You can see here different products and features they offer, and they will tell which are all the features will be available when. So if you just come here and search for Datasphere, let's say SAP Datasphere, yes, filter that, you get the product roadmap. You see, business warehouse bridge, BW bridge, data cataloging, data integration, data marketplace, what all the different sections, and each different section, what all the features they will be available in Q3. You can also go back and change here, let's say quarter 1 and quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2023, what are the features which were made available already, which were live by SAP already. You see, these are the different features which SAP already made available for us when Datasphere is concerned. Yes. So this is how you can check the product roadmap. The next link is about the community pages where you can go and ask questions. So let's say if you have a question about Datasphere, or you want to read some blogs created by consultants around Datasphere, you can go and check that over here, the featured content. So first of all, we have the news about the latest features. There is a learning journey and there's a get started. So get started, I already showed you how to get started with the guided experience, how to get started with the free tier. So all that we can find out here, along with the some training videos provided by SAP. And they also have the events which they conduct online. All these events are free. You can just sign up for these events which are upcoming and which were already done. You can check the video recording. In these events, they will tell you about the features they have released about Datasphere and how these features are typically working, and what all the things which they release latest in the Datasphere. You can go and check out these product update sessions which are free. Then you can also come back and check the Datasphere documentation, blog posts, community questions, product updates, roadmap, and upcoming events. Then we have learning journeys, developer tutorial, their YouTube channel. Then they have also the related communities for other topics. So this is a very helpful page, the community page for Datasphere, where you can go and ask questions and debate and discuss with other people. Yes. So that is what we can do. So Anubhav, can you share if video exists for HANA Cloud? Just get some knowledge and look and feel. Don't worry, Hari. We will cover this topic at later point of time. I'll explain you how to set up your own HANA Cloud account and use the same. So that is what I will be covering as part of our sessions. Yes. Yes. So that's what we will be doing. We will also understand the HANA Cloud and S4 HANA Cloud, how they are different. Uh, Please go back and check the previous class video where I've already covered the difference between S4 HANA and HANA. Yes, that's what I've already covered. Now, there's another question. If company is using BW for HANA private cloud SSC, does the company require to upgrade to Datasphere? All these questions were answered in the last class. Please check the last class video where I already covered the statement of direction and the strategies to implement the concept of strategies to implement the concept of Datasphere. This was already covered in the last class. So now moving on, let's talk about the next important concept, the best practices and getting started. So get started, I already covered best practices. So let me just copy the link and I will cover best practices over here. So what are the different best practices and troubleshooting guides over here? So we have the best practices. So here you can see the general topics, getting started, how to migrate Datasphere content, copying the table between the spaces, understanding the sample content provided by SAP, data integration sources, block series on CDS extraction. Lot of these different topics you can see here with lot of units. You can see lot of units are explained here about data modeling, data analytics, data aggregation, exception aggregation, time dependencies, harmonizing internal data sets to external data sets, analytics, command line interface, security. Lot of articles, notes are published by SAP for you to learn the best practices and troubleshoot your DataSphere tenant. That is what we can do. Yes. So yes, this is how we can work with the best practices and troubleshooting on DataSphere. Okay. So now let's go ahead and talk about the next very important concept, the next very link, which is called business content. So somebody was asking, Anubhav, I want to know if SAP is publishing the content for sales, if SAP is publishing the content for finance, if SAP is publishing the content for different modules. I want to know that. So you can always come back and check here the business content, which is offered by SAP for different spaces and different types. So let's say SAP Ariba, SAP SuccessFactor, SAP Fieldglass, yes, all that content. If you want to discuss that, how to do that, yes. So we have S4HANA Cloud, we have the statistical process cockpit, supply chain management. You can browse the partner content and SAP delivered content. All the content, you can see it over here. Yes. So you can see all the content provided by SAP over here in these sections, which is made available to you. Yes. So this is how we can find all the content. You can always go and check out this blog post, and you can find what are the content which is SAP offering. And if that content fits your need, you can go ahead and download that from the content network. Yes, that's what we can do it. All right. So this is the next part what we have. Just now the next link which we also have is called SAP BW Bridge. So, many of the questions were that related to BW Bridge in the last class. You can go and check the complete documentation of SAP BW Bridge over here. However, this topic I will cover in unit number 16 in our training. So if you can wait, if you have patience to wait, you can wait for that time. If you are not ready to wait for that till that time, you can go ahead and start learning SAP BW Bridge over here on this dedicated documentation provided by SAP on SAP BW Bridge. Yeah, that's what you can also do. Yeah. All right, then we have this main link, which is online documentation. Somebody was asking, can you give me a book for learning DataSphere? So this is the book, guys. This is the central main documentation for end-to-end learning on SAP DataSphere. End-to-end learning on DataSphere. So getting started, video library, sample data model, integration, acquiring data, preparing data, modeling data, consuming data. Yes, business content, governance and publishing catalog, administration, licensing, security, everything. For everything, there is a dedicated guide and book. So, for example, I would want to learn about administration, like managing spaces, creating SSO, you know, generating test data, accessing catalogs, all that you can see it here in the administration. So I click on that and you see it opens a complete administration document. You can also share this document with fellow colleagues, and you can also download it as a PDF. So every single book is available in PDF format. You guys can download and use that information pretty easily in the system. So that is what you can actually do when it comes to administration work. Yes, all the administration work, you can see it here. So you can see all the different books and documentation is being made available by SAP over here in these different sections. Yes, you can see. So all these links are in the PPT, guys. All these links are in the PPT. You guys can go and check the PPT. Yes, they are already there in the PPT. They are already there in the PPT. So this is what you can always go ahead and check that when it comes to PPT. So you can go back and check this documentation inside the PPT. You see tutorials, learning journeys, all of that you can see it in the PPT over here. So that is the helpful links which we have it available provided by SAP. All these links I will be sharing as part of PPT. You can go and check the study material after the class and download this PPT, and this PPT will have all the links. Makes sense. Now let's talk about the different user personas. When it comes to SAP DataSphere, what are all the user personas, different users which we have in the system, which is actually consuming this information. So let's talk about that in action. So let's talk about the user personas now. Yes, different users which does exist in DataSphere system, and how can how these users will help you. So the first user which exists in the system, when you buy a data sphere subscription, what are the users you going to get? Yes, so the first user is called system owner. Yes, system owner. Who is a system owner? It includes all the privileges to allow unrestricted access or to all the areas of the application. So entire data sphere access this person will have, whomsoever is the system owner in your company. He or she will be able to access all those spaces, all the areas, all the content present in the data sphere tenant. Everything they will have access. This will be assigned to exactly one user. Exactly one user, and cannot be cannot and this role must be assigned to someone. Okay, it must be assigned to at least someone, must be assigned to someone. So there has to be exactly one system owner in the entire system in your company. Yes, entire system of your company, there has to be exactly one user, one and only one user, which must have the access. Okay, that is the system owner user. The next is called DW at data sphere DS administrator, or also known as DW administrator, or DS administrator, or DW administrator. So that is called as data warehouse administrator. Guys, just give me 1 minute. Somebody's on the door. Just stay online. Give me one. Okay, everyone. Sorry. Let's continue. So DW administrator or data warehouse administrator, also known as data sphere administrator. So data warehouse administrator or data sphere administrator, what is that they do? They are the administrator of the system who can create users and spaces and have full access across whole of system. So they are the one who will create users, roles, spaces, assigns the users to the spaces. All of that will be done by data warehouse administrator. Data warehouse administrator. They will be the above the space managers. Yes, we can have multiple spaces. They are the one who will create the spaces. Then we have, they are the one who will also provide the roles to the other people in the system. Then we have data warehouse space administrator, as the name suggests. Space administrator, what is the space administrator do? Can manage all aspects of spaces which they are member of. So they will manage space quotas, storage assignment, and workload management properties. They assign which users can work with space. That is space administrator who will manage all this work. They also control the usage of content network. So guys, when you download a content from content network, nothing is for free. It is costly. So your space administrator control how much content our developers can download inside a space, because point one, the content itself is a cost. Point two, when you download the content, it will consume the space inside your space. So when it consumes the memory, then of course there is a cost associated to the memory. So that is also managed by the space administrator. Then we have DW data warehouse integrator. Who is their data warehouse integrator? These are basically standard roles also, and these are system personas also. Which means these roles will be assigned to exactly people in your company. Then who are the data warehouse integrator? What is the main role of an integrator? An integrator can create and edit connections and database users and associated HDI containers in space in which they are the members. Then we have DW modeler who can create and edit objects inside data builder and business builder, and view data in all objects in all spaces which they are member of. Okay, that is data warehouse modeler. So most of the time 90% of the audience will get DW modeler permission in the company. So we all are DW modelers because we will be working most of the time with the builder and business builder and data builder. So this is where all the development happens. That's the role which we use. Then we have DW viewer. What is DW viewer? Viewer will do, it can view objects in spaces of which they are member, and view data output by view that are exposed for consumption in these spaces. So suppose in your company you have a business person who have recently joined a company, or a fresher who have recently joined. You don't want that person to change your objects which you develop. So in that case you can give them DW viewer permission, who can just view these objects. Yeah, just view, they are not allowed to modify. Yes. So next we have the roles which are, or roles and privileges which will be consumer privileges. So the next one is called DW consumer. Who is a DW consumer? Can consume data exposed by SAP DataSphere spaces of which they are member of using SAP Analytics Cloud. So once upon a time, what happened is I had a consultant who was coming to me and was saying, Anubhav, I am trying to build a story in Analytic Cloud, but I am unable to view the space in the Analytic Cloud from your data sphere. Then I checked his user in the system and I found that he was not assigned the DW consumer role. So usually a developer will be assigned DW modeler, DW viewer, and DW consumer roles so that they can view, they can build, and they can consume all the data models from the analytics cloud. Yes. So not just analytic cloud, but also if there are other client tools, other applications or other tools, or Microsoft Excel, they want to consume the data from DataSphere, they will be able to do it once they have a DW consumer role. This role is intended for business analysts and other users who have to drive their visualizations on top of DataSphere. But maybe they will not have the access to modeling. Maybe they will not be able to create new table, create new analytic model, but at least they just want the view permission from the different consumption tools. We can grant this consumer role to them. Now, the next role is called catalog administrator and catalog user. So catalog administrator and catalog user. So what is catalog administrator? As the name suggests, okay, let me also put it in a new PPT. Who is a catalog administrator? Catalog administrator can set up and implement data governance using catalog. This includes connecting the catalog to source system for extracting metadata, building business glossaries, creating tags for classification, and publishing enriched catalog assets to all catalog users. So do not reinvent the wheel. Remember, so we would want to search a content which is already built by another colleague in our company. Yes. So that is what catalog administrator does. They will classify, they will publish the content to the catalog. So all the catalog users can start using it and downloading it or reusing this content. Yes. So you must use this particular role along with other role like data viewer and data viewer modeler. Yeah, DW modeler and data DW viewer role must be assigned to the same person so that at least they can view, they can use the content, they can modify the business information inside the content and then publish it on the catalog. Catalog user can search and discover data and analytical content in catalog for consumption. These users may be modelers who want to build additional content based on official governance assets in the catalog. Yeah, that is what they can do. Yes, or viewer who would like to view these assets, it must be used again in combination with data warehouse viewer and data warehouse modeler roles. So the catalog related roles are basically to publish and view the content which is already built in your company and reuse that. So these are the different user personas and roles which we use traditionally in SAP DataSphere to consume our information or to build information in the system. Now, let's talk about the DataSphere modeler role, how the modelers will build the content in SAP DataSphere. So I already discussed about these two specific area, data builder and business builder area. So what is data builder? So whenever you build a software, you should keep it in mind that you are building the software not just for today, you're building it for future. So whenever you build any DataSphere application for your use cases, you should split up your content into two parts. First is called data layer and second is called business layer. This is how even in BW you do. First you create DSOs, then on top you create the analytic query, then on top you create the BEX query. Like that you use the different levels of development. Same way you do it in analytic in the data sphere. So you have data layer where IT model underlying relationships. They will decide how technically the data will be acquired and stored, how data will be joined, union, applying the formulas on the data model and building the pure hardcore data model like dimensions and measures. So how can I assure queries will perform with data coming from heterogeneous systems? So basically you see This is one system, this is another system, data is coming, it is unioning, then we are reviewing the data, and then we are creating a data persistence or data layer. So this is basically the data layer, the technical layer. It is traditionally used by technical developers like you and me, who has very good understanding, functional understanding of data, plus how to acquire this data from different connections and systems. Then on top of this layer, we have the business layer. Business layer where users work with in terms of business terms. So they have the full functional knowledge of the business. What is their use case? What do they need from the business point of view? So what are the key margin drivers for my product? For example, this is a question which business wants to answer. What are my key margin drivers for my product? Yes, if I'm Apple, what is driving the sales of iPhone? I want to know that. I want to know business questions. So for that, I don't need to know where the data is coming from. What is the relationship between the data? What are the tables being accessing the data? I don't need to know that. I just need to know what are my KPIs. What is my business? What is my business requirement says? So here uh, you will basically try to answer business relevant questions on top of the data which is being built. So as a business layer consultant, you are not really concerned about how the data is being achieved or how the data is being fetched. You are only concerned about your business questions. Yes, business question. What if I reduce the price by 10%? What's the impact of that on my margin? Yes. So business entities and relationship with the business language. In data layer, we have model standardization and reuse for efficiency. So business use cases can be many. Let's say use case 1, use case 2, use case 3, use case 4. But all of that will be built on top of same data layer. So this ensures standardization, security at a central place, and reusability with efficiency. Yes. So your business users are independent from IT users. So you are an IT consultant, you know how the data replication flow works, data integration flow works, data jobs works, data connection works. That's a technical part of the knowledge. Whereas the business layer, it's more of functional, more of from the point of business, from the output point of view. So this is why there are two separate sections: data builder and business builder. They are usually done by two different people. Of course, in this training, I'll teach you both the personas, both the perspectives. Now, datasphere modelers. So there are multiple modeling capabilities that addresses different user groups. So let me talk a quick about the data layer and the business layer. So SAP Datasphere offers multiple modeling capabilities that addresses different user groups, from business analysts with deep business understanding to the tech savvy developers and power users. So you can clearly see we have a different perspective here for different user groups and different users. Yeah. So business analysts have business knowledge, but people like you, me, tech savvy people, we have technical knowledge, how to connect, get the data. In a typical end-to-end scenario, two closely related components of DataSphere are applied. So first is data layer, as I mentioned in the diagram. So what is data layer? Data layer contains the basic modeling of underlying data sources and tables. The related set of tools are available in data builder. So the data builder section is where we have the relevant tools in the data builder section. Here, developers and modelers use tables, views, and intelligent lookups to combine, clean, and prepare data. Views are exposed sometimes directly to Analytic Cloud. Yes, that is your data layer. Then we have the business layer. The business layer allows user to create their own business models on top of data layer. In business terms, so business relevant questions you want to answer, like what will be the effect on my sales margin if I give a 10% discount on a product. The related set of tools are provided in the business layer section or business builder section, data builder and business builder. Yes. So these are the tools which they have provided. The related set of tools are provided by SAP. Data builder objects are consumed in the business builder for modeling and consumption. So data builder objects like table, views are consumed in the business builder. From consumer point of view, to calculate KPIs, aggregate data, create final results for consumption tools. That's the main purpose. They combine, refine, enrich the data builder artifacts. So all the artifacts which you build in data builder, they will be combined, enriched, redefined in more semantic way. More semantic approach. Yes, semantic approach means adding business documentation, providing more information on top of data. So data builder is a technical layer. Business builder is a semantic layer, which provide more information about your objects. So we can add semantic information before exposing lightweight, tightly focused objects for consumption by Analytic Cloud. So all this information we can add to our business builder layer objects so that they can be consumed easily by different tools. Let's say the moment I consume a particular model, it should automatically show rows as my products, customer name and order ID, and columns as my total sales, total revenue, total profit, profit margin and gross margin. So the report will automatically understand what you are exposing. Yes, from the consumer point of view. So all the semantic information will be added to the system with the help of this business builder layer. Okay. Now I already explained the two layers. So you can see this is again the broad architecture of analytic data sphere. So SAP data sphere has two modeling layer as you can see for different business group, data builder and business builder. So data builder layer is where engineers, you and me, software engineers will build their model from a technical approach. So we have options like creating table, uploading files, creating graphical views, SQL views. So here we use coding, heavy coding, ER models, data flow and integration flows like ETL flows. We can create them. So that's very technical layer. It requires technical skill set, sometimes coding skill sets like SQL script, which I will also cover in this training. Whereas the business layer is an area of focus where we focus more on semantic approach for building your business models, like creating dimensions, analytic data sets, fact models, and consumption models, which are used for different use cases, like for example reporting, transactional application, analytical application, KPI analysis. you know for different use cases we use it differently. We the business builder layer is basically used for collaboration by the consumption layer includes Excel, Power BI tools, analytic cloud. These are the consumption tools. So most of the time your consumption layer will consume the business builder most of the time. Okay, next let's talk about the data builder. So now we are getting into data builder and its core functionality, what data builder is capable of doing, what it does to us. So data builder is provides an editor to model data builder artifacts. Yes, in an intuitive graphical interface. We can drag and drop data sources from source browser, join, select, filter, union on top of it. We can aggregate. Aggregate data means sum, mean, max, count, average, all these functions we can apply on top of data. Specify, measures, add calculations, enrich, geostationary data, create currency conversions, add calculated columns. All of that you can do it in the data builder layer. Yes. What are the artifacts available here in this section? So we can create table with the table editor. Then we have the graphical view editor to edit the views graphically. SQL view editor. So if you are good in writing SQL code, you can create the view using SQL view editor using SQL language. We have entity relationship builder where you can define different entities, your tables, and the relationship between them. Analytical model editor, data flow editor, intelligent lookup editor, replication flow editor. This is your ETL part. Somebody was asking, can we do ETL? Yes, here is your ETL part. Replication flow editor. Then we have the task chain editor. These are the different sections we do have it as part of data builder where we can create different types of content. Yes. Now, what are the different types of assets which we use here and how are they different from each other, you know, in each of these assets? So let's talk about that. So first is table. You all know table is a two-dimension structure to store the data. That's what in simple way we can say a table. It's a two-dimension structure. Data is stored in row and column format. We can configure each field of the table and define semantics and association. So that is what we can do as far as a table is concerned. Next object comes is graphical view. As the name suggests, it's a view. So in a graphical view, we can leverage table and other views to prepare data and create views using a graphical low code no code editor. So zero coding, drag drop and it will create. We can join data sets as appropriate, add other operators to remove or create columns and filter or aggregate data. Add other operators to remove or create columns and filter or aggregate data. We can specify additional measures. Finally, we configure output node, which will be the final result of out of the view. Then we have SQL view. As the name suggests, it's a view which is built using SQL language. So using SQL language, we can create views. Also use SQL script table function. I'll explain that in the coming class. What is a table function with powerful editor. Next, we can define ER relationship, entity relationship model, ER model in short. Here we define relationships between tables or views, which are being leveraged when you create a new view based on table. Yes. So here you define the relationships, and these relationships later on you can leverage in the views also. Then we have data flows. Data flows, we can define data flow to use data transformation and leverage the option to load data from different sources or source systems and persist it in SAP DataSphere. So you want to bring data from, let's say, S4HANA system and store it in DataSphere, you can use data flow. Next, we have the intelligent lookup. I just need some space. So we have intelligent lookup. What is it used for? Create an intelligent lookup to merge data from two entities. Even they are, even they have problem joining them. Sometimes you get uncleaned data and you would want to compare two tables or two entities and join them together, even though there is no literal join possible with the help of intelligent lookup. This is helpful when you have case sensitive data and it is not joining or data with the different date formats. You can still do it with the help of intelligent lookup. We have the task chain. Create a task chain that group multiple tasks and run them manually or automated way with the schedule. So let's say every night 12 o'clock I want to run a job which will go to my BW system and load this data in my data sphere. I can do that with the help of task chain. I can schedule multiple data flows or multiple data objects using task chain. So these are the different objects we will be discussing in our coming episodes on data builder layer. So stay tuned with me before the next class. We are done with today's session. Tomorrow's class onwards, we will deep dive in the DataSphere Data Builder capability. We will learn about creating tables and variety of objects, managing the time dimension, use cases, and I will also will be giving you the exercises, okay, in the coming classes. Once again, thank you so much for joining today's session. Is the time you can ask your questions. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. So there are a couple of questions coming. Anamika is asking if you want to clean or manipulate the data, can we do use Python here? Yes, Anamika, we can. It's part of your training. I'll explain that later. Can we also use custom views in HANA Cloud of SAP DataSphere and combine these views in HANA model? Yes, it is possible, Venkat. We will also see that if time permits in our classes. Any questions on the line?
Yeah, Anubhav.
Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, we have installed, registered for the instance cloud and DataSphere. Does it require any configuration between two instances, or automatically it will taken care?
Very good question. So in the next class, I'll show you how do you connect. So we registered today Analytic Cloud and we registered this DataSphere. So will there be any, uh, any connection required? Answer is yes. And I will show that in the next class. So when you try to build a story here, yes, and you try to create a chart or something, it will not work. Yes, it will not work. So I will show you in the next class how to do that connection, yes, between these two instances. Yeah, they are separate. They are separate. We will do that in next class for sure. Because when we want to build a
And
story,
one
we
more
need to
thing,
use.
while creating the instance, does it require any SAP ID also? Actually, I didn't completely notice that thing.
No, sir, not SAP ID. You can use your Gmail ID also. Please check
Gmail.
video recording again of today's class. You will understand.
Okay, exactly, not SAP ID. There is a SAP ID is coming, right? Darting I
No, no,
think
no. SAP
from
ID is
SAP.
not required, sir. Not required.
Okay, thank you.
In
Sir,
HANA,
Sudarshan here.
catalog will store runtime version objects. It's the same concept in DataSphere. Yes, sir. It's the same concept, but you will not see all of that in practicality as part of the tool. So this is your screen to work with. So here you'll not see something called, too technical information like catalog or, packages. You will not see that here. It's all behind the scene managed by the system. Yes. Next question, Sudarshan.
Sir, if my end user,
Yeah.
who is actually user of SAP Analytics Cloud, who
Okay.
wants to consume SAP DataSphere, does he needs the license of SAP DataSphere as well to connect to the system?
If the system is there, of course, there has to be subscription. Point one, it's not on-premise system, so there's no question of license. It's a question of subscription. Of course, if you want to consume the data, you need to have a subscription of DataSphere. Now, basically, it depends. Let's say there are two companies. You are working in Deloitte, another person working in IBM, and you both are working for a client called Colgate. Yes, IBM is using DataSphere for Colgate and building data models for Colgate. Your company is Deloitte and you are doing data analytics for Colgate. So you want to use the data. Now, of course, your company don't need to buy DataSphere subscription for Colgate because it's already bought by IBM and they are doing it. What you do is you need to ask IBM colleagues that give me a user and password and your DataSphere link so I can connect my Analytic Cloud tenant to your DataSphere tenant. In that case, you would not need any subscription of DataSphere, right? Because it's already there.
Thank you, sir.
It's already there for Colgate. IBM is taking care of that. You can connect any DataSphere account. Even you can connect my DataSphere account, which I have here, because it's cloud. That's the benefit of cloud. It's like Facebook.com. Anyone can use, right? Public cloud. It's a public cloud application. So you all can connect as long as you have a user and a password for my tenant. You can connect from your company Analytic Cloud account or your personal Analytic Cloud account to my DataSphere also. It's possible because these are public cloud applications. In fact, in the next class, I'll show you. That's an exact question which was asked earlier. Can we connect these two things? We will learn that in the next class. Can user FP and A user create ad hoc queries, analytic views in business layer on their own? No, cannot. So please wait until we reach to the business builder. All your questions related to business builder will be answered there. Yes, maybe
Yeah,
not relevant
yeah,
today.
hi, Anubhav.
Yes,
Yeah, hi, Anubhav. Venkat here.
yes,
So actually, you said content network in the marketplace, right? So people or users can share their data in the data marketplace. You said like that,
yes,
right?
yes.
But coming to the business, data is a very, very important, and they cannot share to even with the colleagues or
Depends, sir.
some other
Depend.
even.
Some companies'
Okay,
job
okay,
is only data making. I met
okay,
one person last week. His company is a company which just collect the data and sell it online. That's their business model, and they are using DataSphere for that.
okay. How they? I mean, how they can others data actually? So for
Not others
I
data.
just I mean
It's a
not.
drive. They do market surveys. So let's say they do a market survey of a Samsung LED. Yes, they went to
Okay,
30, 40
okay,
stores. They collected the data, sales data, which is available, which is shared by the store with them. That is their USP. They have a contact with the stores. Yes, they go
okay,
there, they collect this data, they put it in DataSphere, and then they publish on, they sell that
okay,
data on a DataSphere. You see,
okay.
data is a gold. You see many companies. If you Google
Yeah.
buy data set for, let's say of software engineers in Pune, Google it.
Mhm.
1,000 rupees, you get 50,000 software developer email IDs and phone numbers, which are software engineers in Pune.
Oh my God. Okay, okay. So like this way, like for the marketing purpose. Okay, okay.
Yes, not just, there can be
Got
many
it, got it.
hundreds of use cases. There are survey
Many. Yeah,
companies,
yeah.
data
Oh,
source companies, which are
okay,
doing
okay.
market surveys. You might have heard about Gartner. Yes, Gartner.
Okay, okay. So,
What are they? Research firm. There are a lot many research firm. They do marketing survey. What hashtags are trending on Twitter? What hashtags are trending on YouTube? They do lot of research. What keywords are trending
okay,
today in India, in US, in Canada? Yes. So
okay.
social media marketing, online marketing, lead generation. These are one type of business. I took an example, but there could be data research firms which does stock market analysis, commodity price analysis, crypto analysis, and they have lots of this data with their expertise they've built, and now they're selling that data,
Got,
past historic data,
got.
future data which is not easy for everyone to make. Companies make, sell
Hmm.
it. That's their business model. They use DataSphere for that. Hundreds of use
Right,
cases,
right.
guys. Hundreds of use cases.
And can we create planning models in SAP DataSphere?
No,
Planning
no,
concept?
no, we
No, right.
cannot.
Okay, okay,
We cannot.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
All
Nice.
right.
So I have to.
Go ahead, Sayam.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, the first question is like suppose I have in my company I have bought S4 HANA and B4 HANA, and on
Okay.
top of that I'm using SAP DataSphere.
Okay.
So if I have some users in B4 HANA, so that those users can we use SSO and migrate them in DataSphere, or
No.
for DataSphere
You
we
need
need
to
different
maintain
users.
users in DataSphere separately.
Okay, so SSO configuration is not yet implemented.
SSO
Yeah.
configuration is possible. SSO and BW are two
Okay.
different things.
Yeah. No.
SSO is
See,
single sign-on, which is a identity
yes. Yes.
provider. So you can configure DataSphere with SSO to let the user log in with the SSO user on DataSphere. That is possible. But BW users you can't
Okay.
replicate. There's no button that you click and it upload all the user from BW to data. That's not possible. That's not possible.
Okay. But if I have a same user which I'm user
Yes,
ID which
SSO
I'm
is a
using,
central repository of users. If SSO have a user, the same SSO user which you are using to connect to BW, the same SSO user, once you configure SSO with DataSphere, can be used to connect to DataSphere also. That's possible.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one more thing. The last class you discussed that there are three approaches using DataSphere, right? One is
Exactly.
with
Very good.
two.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, two are with using BW. One is with mixed hybrid, and another one is BW bridge, and the third one is completely
Very good.
new, right?
Greenfield implementation, there is
So
no
yeah,
on-premise, only data sphere is there. Yes.
yeah. So if I am using greenfield implementation, like I just have one doubt that in BW we used to create the DSOs and like master data separately,
Yes.
transaction data separately. So that modeling, like DSO modeling, and those things that is available in this data layer.
They are exactly
Data
not
set.
available, but there is a equivalent object. Let's say a DSO is equivalent to a analytic view. So when you use the
Okay,
BW bridge, it will read your DSO metadata and it will create an equivalent object in DataSphere,
okay,
which is a fact model. It will create for you. So that we will learn in unit number 17. When I teach you BW bridge, you will understand that very easily with an example.
okay.
Yeah. I just covered the broad strategy. I have not shown how to use it. Slowly we will get into system and we'll start using things. It will be more clear for you. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
See you in the next class. Goodbye.